Fortnite Chapter 2 Remix is a bad idea, and here's why. When it was revealed in the middle of Chapter 5 that instead of returning back to Chapter 1 at the end of the chapter, we'd instead be returning back to Chapter 2, I was super excited. Chapter 2 is my favorite chapter of all time. Of course I'm excited to go back. But now that Fortnite Chapter 2 Remix has started to be revealed by Epic, I'm not too sure what to think about it. Now, it's been theorized for some time now that Chapter 2 OG or Chapter 2 Remix or whatever you want to call it will only go back to the first 3 seasons of Chapter 2, those being Season 1s, 2, and 3, and with the content creator package that recently got sent out, that seems to be the case. In the package, everything is covered in gold. The cassette given to the creators plays a remix version of the Spice theme from Chapter 2 Season 2, remixed by none other than Marshmello. I'll get to you in a minute. And there are 3 pins which are themed around Seasons 1 through 3, those being a golden Ripley pin, a Midas hand pin, and a golden Shark pin. If that doesn't basically confirm that those seasons will be the focus of Chapter 2 Remix, then I don't know what will. Now, this has me a little worried. I mean, sure, Seasons 1, 2, and 3 are great, but they don't really represent the entirety of Chapter 2 that well. For those of you that forgot, Season 1 introduced us to the Chapter 2 map, gave us swimming, fishing, boats, and refocused the loot pool. Season 2 mainstreamed the mythic weapons, brought vaults, brought guards, unless you count stormtroopers from Season 1, and they brought us a bunch of spy stuff. Season 3 flooded the map, gave us sharks, cars, the charged shotgun, as well as some other mythics. Now, I know I'm painting these seasons in a light where they don't really have much content, but when you compare these 3 seasons to one another, there aren't really many differences between them. And that's okay for Chapter 2. This trilogy of seasons built upon each other in an interesting way, where they kept including new mechanics and continued to expand upon the older ones in a new and unique way. Oh, in Season 1 they added a way for us to carry downed enemies. Oh, and in Season 2 they made it so you can pick up downed guards and use them to open door scanners to allow you into locked areas of the building. It worked incredibly well for Chapter 2. But Chapter 2 was 5 years ago. This is Chapter 2 Remix, an entire month dedicated to Chapter 2, and they chose the 3 seasons that were all thematically similar and followed a similar design and gameplay that was at its most developed at the end of the 3 seasons into a month-long season where the updates roll out over a month. I mean, that's one way of doing it. I mean, from what little we know about Chapter 2 OG, it sounds a lot more like Season 2 Remix than Chapter 2 Remix. Oh, gold cassette, gold pins, a cassette that plays your theme music. I wonder who that could be. Could you give me a clue, please? I don't quite know who you're referring to. And I know I'm treading through some very murky waters here. Everyone loves Chapter 2 Season 2. I don't know a soul who doesn't, but it shouldn't be the face of Chapter 2. Let's not forget that Chapter 2 had 5 other seasons that they are seemingly failing to include in Chapter 2 Remix next month. Seasons like Nexus War, 0 Point, Primal, Invasion, and Cubed. And I know the quality of those seasons are debated amongst the community, and some of those seasons are more loved than others. But arguably some of Fortnite's biggest and most fun changes occurred during those seasons. Season 5 brought the first new biome to the island, Season 6 brought crafting, Season 7 brought all the fun guns like the railgun, the ray gun, the plasma gun, and the UFO, and the UFO. Season 8 brought the Sideways and Cube Town into the game. So many unique and interesting gameplay elements were introduced throughout Chapter 2, and they decided to go for the seasons that have the least amount of changes when it comes to gameplay. That would be like if Chapter 1 OG used Seasons 1, 2, 3, and even 4 as their seasons to rotate through, when Chapter 1 had so many more things to it, like Paradise Palms, the Floating Island, the Ice King's Castle, and so much more. The fact that they aren't including the other seasons of Chapter 2 it doesn't make sense to me. Or actually, it might. I currently have 3 theories as to why Fortnite chose to only do 3 seasons for Chapter 2 Remix, and they're all very interesting. My first theory is that they want to stay as far away from the 7, the Imagined Order, and the Last Reality as possible. Since Chapter 4 started, Fortnite have been distancing themselves away from the game's previous main 3 factions and lore, and instead opted to make new ones like the Society and the Underground. Fortnite have gone very far to avoid the 7 specifically from being name-dropped or even mentioned. Does anyone remember the concept art for the loading screen for Chapter 5 Season 1 that had a bunch of 7 content in it, and then in the actual loading screen there's absolutely no 7 content? Yeah, Fortnite have been seemingly trying to bury the 7 and Fortnite's older factions for some time now, and despite how much I want them to continue the story of the 7 and the Last Reality, I can't say I blame them. A new creative officer took over a while ago, and we need to give him the opportunity to tell his own stories in the Fortnite universe, and so far he's been doing a great job in my opinion. How is this relevant? Well, After Season 4 of Chapter 2, the story of the Seven, the Imagined Order, and the Last Reality gets brought to the forefront, and it's kind of hard to avoid. I suppose in Epic's eyes, the best thing and the easiest thing to do would be to avoid those seasons entirely so that they wouldn't have to touch on or work around those storylines in order to keep things coherent. My other theory is that Chapter 2 is simply too big to fit into one OG season, so instead they'd have to split it in two, doing the first half of the chapter this year and finishing the second half of the chapter next year. Not only would this give us more time before we'd move on to whatever comes next, like Chapter 3 Remix, but it would also allow us to get an even better, more fleshed out version of Chapter 2 Remix that contains all of the later seasons of Chapter 2. A kind of Chapter 2 Remix Part 2. And then they can split that into two parts and they can call it Chapter 2 Remix Part 2 Part 2. And then in a couple years when they remix the remix, they can call it Chapter 2 Remix Part 2 Part 2 Remix Part 1. It's great! And my third and final theory is that they just don't want to do the other seasons, whether it be because the gameplay for the rest of the chapter was simply too advanced compared to the first three seasons, which somewhat follow the same kind of mechanics, or maybe because of some of the seasons after Season 3 aren't really highly regarded in the community, like Seasons 5, 6, and sometimes 8, depending on who you speak to. I think each theory is somewhat plausible, but until next year we may never truly know the real reason as to why we're only getting the 3 seasons and not the rest of the chapter. I was really looking forward to Season 7, but maybe next year. There is, however, something else I would like to mention. I said near the beginning of the video that Chapter 2's theme remix was remixed by Marshmello. Marshmello, the artist that's getting another skin in the game soon. Why would he be getting another skin? He already has 3. He's not having another concert, is he? There are apparently 2 live events happening between now and Chapter 6, one of which happening before Chapter 2 Remix. Now, there's a few theories going around about these events, but the biggest one I've seen right now is that one of the live events would be a Marshmello concert. And I have a feeling they might be right. This would explain why he seems so involved in Chapter 2 Remix and why he's getting another skin soon. It isn't entirely out of the question. I mean, Eminem had a mini concert last year to promote Fortnite Festival. My only issue is that we haven't really had a full-scale storyline live event since Fracture, which was 2 years ago. And Fracture was rubbish, so it doesn't count. My current concern is that the event before Chapter 2 Remix is a Marshmello concert, and then the event at the end of Chapter 2 Remix is another Metaverse showcase like last year. And I would not like that. The mini events are cool and I love them, but come on, give us storyline lovers something a little more, you know? I think the best case scenario is that we get a storyline live event to take us to OG Chapter 2, and then we get a Metaverse showcase event like we did last chapter, and this time it can feature Marshmello and give him a little concert or something. I don't know what it is, but recently it feels like Fortnite has become a lot more focused on collabs than it used to be, and it definitely shows with these kinds of collaborations. But I'm not going to speak too much on that topic right now because we don't really have much information regarding the live event, but look out for a video on that topic soon, actually. Now, I know this video has been very negative, and despite my concerns I voiced in this video, I am really looking forward to Chapter 2 OG, or Remix, whatever. I'm looking forward to going back to the old map with the old weapons and gameplay that I loved, and it's gonna be great. I just hope that Fortnite can remember that the rest of the chapter deserves to be re-experienced too.